Thank you, Mr. President. Today I join with my colleague and senior senator, Senator Hoeven, to honor and to bear witness to a great North Dakotan and a great officer of the Fargo Police Department, Jason Moszer, who lost his life in the line of duty. And I'd like to begin by yielding the floor to my senior senator, Senator Hoeven.
I join my colleague from North Dakota today to honor a brave young man, Officer Jason David Moszer, who made the ultimate sacrifice for his community. Jason Moszer was an officer since 2009 with the Fargo Police Department. Died in the line of duty 2 weeks ago today while responding to a domestic violence report in Fargo, North Dakota. It is a tragedy that he was torn from his family and his friends and torn from his life while protecting the lives of others. He dedicated himself to serving our state, and we are all grateful for his commitment to devoting his energy and talents to serve as a member of the Fargo Police Department. While at his funeral earlier this week, I appreciated the opportunity to learn more about the person Jason was and the life that he lived. From his youth, he led a life of continuous service with the National Guard as a combat medic for 8 years, service in Bosnia, service in Iraq, and until his passing, service to the people of Fargo as a policeman. In 2012, he and fellow officer Matthew Sliders were awarded the department's Silver Star Medal for pulling 2 children from an apartment fire. Even in death, he served by donating his organs to others in need. In dying, his organs and the tissue helped to save the lives of at least 5 other people. Clearly, Officer Moszer was a man committed to doing things for others, and consequently, he was respected and admired by everyone who came into contact with him. Hearing stories about the pranks he pulled, the friends he brought together, and his love of camping and cooking all round out the picture of a man who touched the lives of so many, a man who was loved by so many. We owe him and those who love him a tremendous debt for their sacrifice, because his family and friends have paid a high price. We in North Dakota pride ourselves on being a safe state, but incidents like this remind us that we are not immune to violent crime. They also remind us of the enormous debt we owe to Officer Moszer and to all of the men and women in law enforcement who leave home every day and go to work to protect us and help make ours the wonderful state North Dakotans are so proud of. Mikey and I extend our heartfelt condolences to Officer Moser's wife, Rachel, and their children, Dylan and Jolie. It is difficult to lose a loved one, and more so to lose one so young and under such circumstances. During this difficult time, we pray that the Mosers are able to find comfort in the love of their family and friends, the support of their community, and the warm memories they have of Jason, which they will carry for the rest of their lives. Please know that you will continue to be in our thoughts and prayers. And one final note, Senator Heitkamp and I were at the funeral, and I think there were about 6,000 people at the funeral, which is a testament to Officer Moszer and his life. He truly epitomizes sacrifice and service to others. May God bless him and his family. And with that, Mr. President, I would turn the floor back to my colleague, Senator Heitkamp.
My great thanks to my colleague from North Dakota, my senior senator, Senator Hoeven, who I know as we sat quietly in the hockey arena that Jason loved so much, we felt the pain of so many, including literally the hundreds of thousands of North Dakotans who watched the broadcast of the funeral, but also listened on the radio. On the evening of Wednesday, February 10th, Officer Jason Moszer did what so many police officers do on a daily basis. He went towards the danger. He answered the call to serve and protect the citizens of Fargo, North Dakota. Jason and the other officers that responded to that initial call knew they were encountering a dangerous situation. The domestic violence call that brought them there that evening had mentioned that there might be a firearm involved. Yet, those officers did not hesitate. A short time later, shots rang out, and then those words that will never be forgotten by his fellow officer were heard, "Officer down." Yet, even in the darkest of hours, the men and women of the Fargo Police Department maintained their composure. They continued the critical work of securing the surrounding neighborhood and trying to bring this dangerous situation to a resolution. Later that night, the city of Fargo, the state of North Dakota, our neighboring community of Moorhead, and certainly his home community of Sabin, lost one of its finest citizens when Officer Moszer succumbed to his injuries. The loss of an officer in the line of duty is something that devastates an entire community. And in a small state like North Dakota, it has taken a toll on every law enforcement officer and every resident throughout our entire state. I'm here this evening to honor Officer Moszer. And I'm here this evening to honor the brave men and women of the Fargo Police Department. These officers wake up every morning. They put on a uniform that requires that they frequently place themselves in dangerous situations in order to protect and to serve the citizens of their state, their community, or their tribe. Few among us know what it's like to make that choice. We have a proud history in North Dakota of law enforcement officers serving their state and local community with distinction. I have had the privilege over the years to work with law enforcement officers in my state that span the spectrum, from highway patrol to state and local officers to various federal officers and the tribal police. And let me tell you, without any hesitation, these are some of the finest men and women I have ever met or worked with. And the officers of the Fargo Police Department have proven beyond a doubt that they are some of the finest law enforcement officers in the nation. The men and women of the Fargo Police Department, led by their chief, Chief David Todd, performed admirably. They performed heroically that night 2 weeks ago. The courage and strength and leadership displayed by Chief Todd during this incredibly difficult period has been nothing short of remarkable. And those qualities have certainly spread throughout his department to each and every officer under his charge. Remember, these officers chose this path. They chose to selfishly put themselves in harm's way so that they could make the city of Fargo a safer place for each and every person that lives there or who may have, by chance, be passing through. They chose to put the needs of others before their own. They chose a more difficult path to tread than most of us would ever be willing to follow. One of the stories that we heard was from one of his best friends who said Jason, quite honestly, would have been embarrassed by the outpouring. He suggested that maybe what Jason would like is just people to have a few beers and remember him quietly. Well, Jason's loss was a loss not only for all of the people of our state, but it was a tremendous, devastating loss for the Fargo Police Department and the community of Fargo. And so those officers that put on that uniform on each and every day, they are in a unique and very special group. A tight-knit group that very few people could understand what it takes to do the job that they do. You know, I unfortunately have attended a number of funerals, 2 during my time as Attorney General, of officers who were killed violently in the line of duty. And one of the most moving tributes to a fallen officer is when the radio dispatcher goes through the end of the watch roll call. This moving and emotional moment shows that even in death, the men and women of the Fargo Police Department stand shoulder to shoulder with their colleagues. They are reminded that they will support each other the way they support the city of Fargo each and every day, and that even when a colleague has fallen in the line of duty, they will always have his back. Officer Moszer, Chief Todd, and the men and women of the Fargo Police Department, I thank you from the bottom of my heart for your service, and for your sacrifice to the people of Fargo and to the state of North Dakota. And I'd like to end with the end of the watch. Edward 143, status check. Edward 143, status check. Edward 143, status check. Adam 1 Central, Edward 143 is 1042. End of watch, February 11th, 2016 at 12:45 hours. That was the final words that their comrades spoke to Officer Moszer and his family. And without brave men and women willing to step up, willing to stand on the wall for every one of us, we'd be a much lesser society. So my great thanks to my colleague, Senator Hoeven, for joining me. It is in a great North Dakota spirit that we join together as colleagues in a bipartisan way to say thank you and to say goodbye to a wonderful officer, Officer Moszer.